All right, this meeting is called to order at 2:04 p.m. Why don't we start with a roll call?
League of Women Voters, Janet Brennan. Here. Salinas Valley Taxpayers Association, Kevin Dayton.
Here.
Monterey Peninsula Taxpayers Association, Tom Raleigh.
Here.
Senior and Disabled Services Agency, John McPherson.
Here.
Bicycling Advocate, Victoria Beach. Here. Transit User Representative, Maria Vera. Here. Labor Organization, Tony Garcia.
Here.
Central Coast Builders Exchange Representative, Christine Crowns. Here. Salinas Valley Chamber of Commerce, Greg Hammer.
Here.
Monterey Peninsula Chamber of Commerce, Monica Lau. Here. Agriculture Representative, Norm Grew.
Here.
Education Representative, Darren Fort.
Here.
South County Representative, Paula Gesselman. Here. Latino Organization, Chris Ferreira.
Here.
North County Representative, Rosemary Bernard. Here. And alternate Ed Mitchell.
Here.
Pedestrian Representative, Robin Lee. Here. Construction Representative, Keith Severson. And
Here.
Martin Kenny.
Here.
Okay, shall we have a call?
Thank you very much. Teresa, I think we have a couple of newly appointed board members. If you could point them out and they could say,
Okay,
spend 30 seconds talking about themselves.
all
and their
right, so
background.
let's start with Martin Canning. Martin, do you want to introduce yourself and say who you represent?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Martin Canning. I'm with Granite Rock. I'm a construction manager at Granite Rock. I've been with Granite Rock for 13 years. Was with Granite Construction prior to that. So happy to be here. Glad to be able to make a contribution. Help where I
Thank you.
can.
Thank you, welcome. And then, so Keith, do you want to say anything? Is this your last meeting? Do you want to share?
A more than able-bodied replacement, way more about construction than I will ever.
And we also want to acknowledge and thank you because you were part of the community group that got together before the measure even passed to help us draft the Transportation Safety and Investment Plan. So one of the OGs. as they used to say.
And
So-
it's been a pleasure, and I've got to say, this is an outstanding committee. I love the work that we've done here, and I just think it's a great way to handle a measure like Measure X with an oversight committee like this. That's pretty insightful and hardworking. So
Thank you. Yes. And then Tony, I know you've attended a couple of meetings, but since we have some new people on board, do you mind introducing yourself and saying you probably
Absolutely.
represent?
Yeah, Tony Garcia, I'm with the Opera Engineers Local 3. I'm a business agent. My office out of Morgan Hill. Been on staff 7 years now. Been a union member for 22 plus years and looking forward to filling Rod's shoes.
Yes, thank
Trying
you.
to.
So Rod walked away without telling us he was gone. So so Tony is here. So thank you. That's all that we have here.
Great. Thank you, Teresa. Why don't we move to public comments? Any member of the public may address the committee on any item not on the agenda, but within the jurisdiction of the committee. All public comments are limited to 2 minutes. Is there anyone from the public who wants to talk about items not on the agenda? All right, looks like we're okay. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. The only item we have on this here is approving the draft minutes of the November 19th, 2024 meeting. Would somebody like to make a motion for approval of those minutes?
Move to approve. I'll second.
All right, I think typically we still have a roll call vote for approval of the minutes, so let's do that.
League of Women Voters, Janet Brennan.
Abstain.
Salinas Valley Taxpayers Association, Kevin Dayton.
Aye.
Monterey Peninsula Taxpayers Association, Tom Raleigh.
Aye.
Senior Disabled Services Agency, John McPherson.
Aye.
Bicycling Advocate, Victoria Beach.
Aye.
Transit User Representative, Maria Vera.
Aye.
Labor Organization Representative, Tony Garcia.
Aye.
Central Coast Builders Exchange, Christine Crum.
Excuse me, aye.
Salinas Valley Chamber of Commerce, Greg Hammer.
Aye.
Monterey Peninsula Chamber of Commerce, Monica Lau.
Yes.
Hospitality Representative, Martin Watkins.
Aye.
Agriculture Representative, Norm Grew.
Yes.
Education Representative, Darren Fort.
Aye.
South County Representative, Paula Getzelman.
Absent abstain.
Latino Organization, Chris Barrera.
Abstain.
North County Representative, Rosemary Bernard.
Abstain.
Pedestrian Representative, Robert Lee.
Yes.
Construction Representative, Keith Severson.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Okay. We have here on the agenda, gather together to take a Measure X Citizens Oversight Committee group photo. Are
Yes,
we complete to the extent we're able to be?
yes, it's always going to be a challenge, so I think you should take the photo. So what I'd like for you is everyone can just gather in the center here. Let's put a few chairs, so if there's people that would want to sit, we can do that. So if you all can get up, and then I will come over here and take your photo.
All people back.
Yeah, let's put some chairs in the front. Yeah, get the rolling chairs, it would be easier, yeah. Yeah, just roll a couple, yeah, maybe 4 chairs.
Oh, I've got your.
Yes, yes.
Teresa, do you have any way you want us to line up?
Okay, so well, look at, there's a Measure X
Yeah,
background.
in the background.
Alphabetically in verse from your.
Height,
Include birthdays.
yes.
Front.
Yeah.
You want the cute short people in front of you?
Anyone wanna sit?
Let's maybe let's do 4 chairs, maybe.
I'm just gonna.
4 chairs?
Yeah. Or 3, at least 3.
3.
And I would encourage somebody to sit so that it's just not one person sitting by themselves up there, so.
Yeah, maybe.
Please, 3 or 4 chairs. Yeah, go ahead.
I think you're good.
Perfect.
Nobody
idea.
likes to
Yes.
sit. Yeah, might as well.
Yes.
Three.
Yeah, get another chair.
No, I'm not sitting. Sit right there.
Pull another
I'll
chair.
pull it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I see already that the back row, there's too many there, so let's bring some people up front.
Move forward.
This
Yeah.
chair is higher than
Yeah.
all the others.
All right, get one more chair, Maria, get one more chair.
Oh my God, she's coming.
Yeah, get one more chair. We're gonna get one more, it's fine.
All of you want to sit in a chair?
Yeah, Paula's gonna get in a chair.
People can lay down up here.
This chair is
Careful.
up too high and
Oh,
I can
you wanna go down?
barely get my feet on the floor.
Paula wanted that one.
There you go. You got it? Okay, there's 2 more chairs up here. Go.
Come on, somebody's gotta sit in the chairs.
Entertaining the call.
Someone should sit.
Kevin's gonna sit.
Okay.
All right, Tom, it's,
Hi, Jen.
I need for you guys to step forward your row.
Oh, yeah, Tom's way back.
Yeah,
Maybe next to.
yeah, Tom, yeah, move Tom over. So is everybody in the picture that should be
Greg,
here?
probably go in the middle somewhere, like, yeah, there you go. You can see him. And Tony's.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, we can see everybody's face. Just one, come on, another one.
Hi Doug, so my qualifies for TK.
Jeez, thank you. You're welcome.
All right.
Come on. We're good, thank you.
Yeah.
She doesn't know you're supposed to take it from here.
Chair's got it.
That's the rule. Need someone tall to take the bitch.
Yeah, someone taller than me.
Oh, that's fantastic. One of those things you just anticipate so much.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So that chair got lower.
Lunch champions. Somebody figured out how to say it.
Oh, yeah, we lowered it.
Yeah, okay.
You don't have the high chair.
This meeting's
They have a
still
full
going.
They do?
Home said it's like 1:30. I'm
Yeah,
like,
Tom.
I have.
Oh, wow.
Oh, now you have.
You can pull it back up.
Maria.
Yeah.
It was like, look up and go,
Oh.
oh, you need to take it out.
That's why I set my alarm.
Oh, it was on my calendar. That doesn't matter.
How are you doing? Something on the side. Can I help you?
I was on a Zoom, so I had to set this alarm.
Tired?
where I could- Okay, guys, I gotta go.
You sure?
Do you want some coffee or anything?
So I'm good.
You good?
Thank you very much.
I don't have the minutes. I just have-
And what about if you need to get some public
Give me
services?
mine. I have no
What
more.
do here? Oh, yeah. How are we gonna get here?
Is this what you got?
If you need to-
You printed it.
Right.
No, never mind.
Yeah.
Certainly not. Special.
All right, thank you everyone for the photo. Look forward to seeing it in the report. Moving on to item number 5, receive presentation on the progress of the Imgen Parkway widening and roundabout corridor project funded by Measure X funds from the city of Marina. Teresa?
Yeah, so Edry de los Santos was scheduled to do the presentation. He's the senior engineer for the city of Marina. But in his absence, because he's sick, Dana Van Horn has graciously stepped up and she's going to do the presentation today. Dana is the senior construction manager for Harris and Associates, and she is the manager of this project. So Dana, thank you, certainly last minute stepping in and making this
Absolutely.
presentation. We appreciate it.
All right, let's see if we can, good start. So, many partners create many good projects. We've had a particularly good relationship on this project with all our stakeholders and the design team, the city itself. TAMC's been a great partner, and the contractor, which is Monterey Peninsula Engineering, has also been a super partner in this. We just had our 1-year anniversary last week. February 13th of 2023 is when we finally got to work on this. Or 24, excuse me. Quick little agenda there. I don't tend to dwell on anything too much, but I'm certainly open to answer any questions as we go through, or you can leave them till the end. For anybody who isn't familiar with the project, Imgen Parkway starts out as 4 lanes, two each direction when you come off of Route 1. And then you get to Imgen Road and all of a sudden it goes down to 2. And it continues those 2 lanes through to Reservation Road. And as a pretty major arterial connecting the inland valleys here and the coast, it was time to get on with this project. So that green section right there is 1.7 miles long, and that's what we're working on right now. As you can see from the conceptual drawing here, we're taking the 2 lanes, we're putting in 4 plus 2 buffered bike lanes, and the pedestrian path that you see, ped and bike path that's completely separated from traffic there on the far left. All of the signals that were in place along Imgen Parkway, 4 of them, are being replaced by roundabouts, which will hopefully slow traffic down and make it reasonable and not another freeway through there. Project timeline, which is always of interest to people, especially if you happen to like to use Imgen Parkway. So as I mentioned, we started on February 13th last year. Phase 1, next week, Thursday night, we're gonna switch traffic from the side that it's on right now, which is what we call the southbound roadbed. We're gonna switch everybody over to the north roadbed, with the exception at Abrams, where we'll have a little dance there that traffic will do. But basically, we're gonna be putting everybody on the first lift of the new asphalt on that north roadbed from Reservation Road up to the western edge of the project there. So it's a pretty big milestone. We had a fair number of unknowns on this and managed to get through them all. And even with the rains, we are on schedule. So Nice.
that's a good thing. Phase 2, which is doing most of the southbound, I'll have some graphics here in a minute. I went back and forth on which to present first, but late fall of 2025, we will complete phase 2, which is essentially the southbound roadbed, or south roadbed.
eastbound traffic in the final configuration. Early 2026, we'll go back and do a few of these little pieces and parts that we just couldn't do while maintaining the 2 lanes of traffic that we are required to maintain the entire time. And then project completion in late April of 2026. And even that is a little early, but I'm pretty solid on that, unless we get hit with some really unusual rains throughout the rest of this month and next, or next winter. We should finish a little bit early, so. Not for advertisement, but as I was discussing a few minutes ago, phase 1 is all of this that you see in blue. And that's what we've been working so hard to get completed right now. So that blue goes all the way through. We have the half roundabout at Preston Drive and at Marina Heights Drive. And we're working on the one at Engine Road right now. Abrams, you'll notice, is absent from the blue at the moment. So that's in a different phase. So starting on next Thursday night, we'll be switching traffic over. And we will be going and putting people on the blue, and we will be constructing the yellow portion that you see there. So completing that south side roadbed or eastbound roadway. We'll then fall back to the magenta that you see there, that big blob at Abrams Drive. We'll close that north side down and we'll construct that, and then we'll flip right over and we'll do that south side. And that'll take from about April. We have it scheduled April to August for the north side, and September to December for the south side. And as you can see, there are a few other little magenta areas there that we just, like I said, by virtue of the road geometrics and keeping the traffic open, we have to go back and do a few little fill-ins there. Phase 4 is going and paving that entire roadway. So we have we've kept everything low to the first lift of asphalt. So the final phase will be coming through and paving the entire thing. So it's all nice and relatively joint-free, and put all the final striping down. So that's the layout of the project. Okay. Recent comment, I guess Preston Drive is not quite as recent, but it was a big deal because we're running traffic around that half roundabout that we have there now. Marina Heights Drive will reopen in March for right in, right out traffic. Right now it's completely closed at Engine Parkway. It may open a tiny bit earlier than that, but I'm going to stick with March. April, Engine Road will reopen for right in, right out traffic. And as I mentioned, in April to August, we'll be closing down Abrams Drive. And that's our heaviest traveled section, aside from Marina Heights Drive. So that's a big deal, and we lose some pedestrian access when we do that too. So we'll be scrambling to get that done as fast as we possibly can. With that, everybody's always interested in the money. In the blue is the breakdown of funding and the various funding sources. And in the red is expenditures that we've had to date. We're about 50% through with the construction of the project. And nicely enough, we're about 50% on the funding, which always it's kind of a good thing. So with that, I think, outreach. So we have monthly interagency task force meetings. And some of you may have participated, but homeowners association, first responders, CSUMB, anybody who's commuters, anybody who's interested in the project can join in on that call. We have quarterly updates with TAMC. We have a weekly newsletter that goes out to anyone who would like to receive it. We have our special notifications. For example, next Thursday night, there'll be a notice that'll go out to all the homeowners associations and people on our distribution list saying, hey, we're gonna have a nighttime closure and we're literally closing Engine Parkway down from Reservation Road to California, and here's where the detours are. There's a separate notice that goes to first responders that says, hey, we're gonna have this closed down, but we're gonna have continuous access for you. You just pull up and we let you through. We also have a website, and I like to say that this is like the best information there is. I mean, I try to update this every day or every week, whenever we have something change. If we have something specifically that's, you know, coming up that is of note, this banner at the top, we had some no parking, and we had increased truck traffic for our paving operation 2 weeks ago. For our closure next week, you'll see another banner that's up there. There's live traffic cams that are on that, so you can kind of see what's going on with traffic, whether you want to, you know, brave going through there or not. So it's a really good source of information. So if you haven't been there, and by all means, if there's something that you think should be on there and you're not seeing it, please let me know as well. I think that's all I got.
Great.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Opportunity for committee questions and
raised.
comments. For Christie, you first, then Norm.
I want to commend you guys. I think you guys have done an amazing job of
Wow.
both letting the public know and keeping traffic moving smoothly through there. Both of my employees, one is my daughter, both live out there and have to get to work every morning. And so they've been able to get to work. I've been able to get to the doctor. I've been able to go out there and visit. So you guys have done an amazing job. I appreciate it.
Well, great. We appreciate all feedback, but particularly positive feedback. So thank you for letting us know.
Norm?
Yeah, I was just gonna echo the same thing, but I wanted to highlight too, the weekly email is really
Yeah.
important. Really helps not only anticipating what's gonna come up so that we can inform those who need to know, but the pictures are extremely useful. So
Oh.
thank you for all the effort that goes into that because it's really helpful.
Pass that along. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Ed?
For some of the newbies,
Yes,
am I correct that this was TAMC funded out of their 40% of Measure X funds? Is that correct?
this is partially TAMC funded.
And the other part is. from
So
Marina?
there's SB1 funding, so state funding.
Yes.
There's TAMC fund, the Measure X funding, and there's also some local developer fees that are in there.
And did the Measure X funding help get the, some of the other the state funding?
Oh, I'm sure that it did. I mean, it's,
Okay.
oops, sorry,
Yeah, there's
it's
SB1
nearly
funding.
half of the funding, so it's a substantial.
Yeah, if I can chime in,
substantial chunk there.
the 18.25 million of Measure X was from the regional share, the 40% for regional
Yes.
projects. It's one of the regional projects listed in the ordinance for Measure X. And it was used to leverage to get the $20 million SB1 grant.
Right.
So,
And,
yep.
So how big was the multi-year budget and how much have you committed already?
Our expenditures to date are, let's see, if I can add here, 14.5, so call it 16.5 million is what we've expended to date over the course of the year. That's probably about that's all based on reimbursement requests. So we had really big paving week, well, 2 weeks in between the rains. So it's probably a little bit behind, but it's pretty accurate.
Thank you.
Sure.
So with Marina, the Marina funding, is any of that Measure X funding? Or do you know? Would we know?
That is not, that's from their local development impact
Developer
fee.
funding.
Oh, that's right, okay.
So actually, Marina, not only did they spend their Measure X, which you're not reporting, but they also spent their own funds.
They,
So that's a good message.
Marina contributed their own funds. They have not put their local Measure X into this
Correct.
project.
Correct. But they've been using X funds for building stuff and they've been doing this type of funding. So the public is getting good pothole repair or road repair.
Great.
Just a quick question, great project, love it. Just for personal gratification, you mentioned some of the unknowns that you did not encounter. What were you guys afraid of?
We did encounter.
Oh.
Yeah, first and foremost, Marina Coast Water District inherited all of their plumbing, so to speak, from the Army. So a lot of that is kind of known, you know, GPS, ground penetrating radar goes so
Sometimes,
far.
yeah.
Sometimes you think you know where it is, and then sometimes you spend half a day looking for it 20 feet away and you find it. So there have been some things that we've found for them, and they've been good partners to work with. They've gotten some upgrades that they paid for in their system. Some of the upgrades have been paid for with this project because we're in direct conflict with them. It just wasn't where it was supposed to be, but now they know where it is. We have it all GPS in.
That's a good thing.
So the as-bills will be really helpful, but yeah,
Okay.
that's probably been the biggest unknown that we've come across. Otherwise, it's been pretty quiet, but
I've also noticed a couple of large retaining walls that have been put in right by Abrams and Abrams and Engine.
Yeah.
So that was pretty significant work, I imagine.
yeah, there's a big grade change. I mean, you can see from what we've constructed at Abrams that that intersection is really coming up quite a
Okay.
ways. There's a good 4 feet there, I
Oh,
think.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So-
Thank you.
That's why we lose pedestrian access. I mean, once we get started on that, there's gonna be a huge grade differential between one
Just
side of
no
the
way to
road
move around.
and the other. So,
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? I do have a couple of comments. First, I don't know if Harris and Associates would be willing to share this slideshow with TAMC, but we don't have that in our packet and it's not in the electronic version. We love
I
to
have
stick
it.
it up there, right? Also,
Yeah.
let's change that to city of
Absolutely.
Marina too.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll.
Good. I think this would be a good thing also down the road if the full board wants to hear how this project is going. It's a good success story that I think they should hear about. Let's open it up now to public comment. Are there any public comments regarding the City of Marina Imgin Parkway Corridor Project Update Presentation? There are none. We will thank you very much for the presentation.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
oh, go ahead, Victoria.
I'm remiss. I just realized that Ed's question about the leveraging of the Measure X money is something everybody always asks. So that slide where you have, which was very clear about the budget and how much you spent and everything, if there's ever a little leveraging spot to put it, like, this is what we put, I think just people feel
Good
very
suggestion.
gratified when they hear that, as that's why Ed asked, yeah.
Yeah, maybe I should just increase the font
Yeah.
size on the.
Yeah.
Victoria, I remember in 2016, when Measure X was on the ballot, that was one of the talking points to support it, to point out that places like the Bay Area and Los Angeles would get all this matching funds from the state and Monterey County wouldn't. So actually, especially subsequent to Senate Bill 1 coming in, we've benefited from having that,
I think
so.
it's worth saying that SB1 is just as newbies always in the room and everything, that is not Measure X money, but we got that because we had Measure X in place.
Yeah.
People
that's
just wanna
a very
know.
Good point.
So Measure X can oftentimes have a double impact.
Yeah.
Exactly. We love that. It's like a coupon.
Which would be something nice
I
to
get
be
it.
in the reports.
All right, thank you very much. We will move on to item 6, which is receive, update, and provide feedback on the proposed Measure X annual reporting process. And the 3 people who have been appointed by this committee to the subcommittee to prepare that were past Chair Norm Groot, new chair myself, and Vice Chair John McPherson. And actually, I would say that Norm was the leader of this particular project since he was chair for the year that's being reviewed. If you don't mind, I'd like to pass it to you.
Okay, all right. Well, one of the tasks we had first was to review all the submissions that the 13 different jurisdictions were required to file by December 31st. And so staff did a very good job of putting together the matrix so that we could understand whether or not everyone qualified, which I'm happy to say all 13 qualified this year, all 12 cities plus the county. It's the first time that's happened. So we're very fortunate that it all came together very well this year. And so once we saw that, then we could determine how we are going to set up the not only the grid matrix that shows the 5 or 6 years of history of how all those various jurisdictions either were in compliance or late or not. And then also at Ed's suggestion, including the expenditure numbers and putting those dollars and cents together so that we have it in a table. And so we could figure out how to put that together. But moreover, we put together this narrative that will go in the annual report from TAMC that is coming out this May. Basically proclaiming, first of all, that we have all jurisdictions in compliance, and then talking through some of the various different aspects of how this is apportioned. Again, the 60% to the county and the 12 cities, and then the 40% for the regional projects. So I think we are very fortunate. We have a very positive story to tell this year. And with the inclusion of the additional table with the dollars and cents, I think that will give a lot more information to the public when they start looking at this, as well as our elected officials who can rely on those numbers as they see them also. So with that, unless there are other things staff wants to add to this, Teresa or Mike?
Yes, there are a couple of things. So
Yes.
first of all, this typically your report is 2 pages. That's what we've done to include it into the TAMSI annual report. But because this is more detailed, what we're looking at is now a 4-page report. So it's double. So TAMSI is explaining what those costs are, but know that as we expand this, that you get more pages and then there will be more context. Do you want to scroll down and let's take a look at the graphics? Because one of the things that this report was to reflect those changes that this committee had asked to see some of the changes. So if you could put up the last 2 pages, Maria,
Okay.
and let's start with this one. And this is the wall that you had talked about. So
Yeah.
before it was inclusive in the entire length of the measure. And so what we've done is we've made it 5 years. So that, because we wanted to see the consistency of what people were doing, that's what the subcommittee had decided. So this is what that will look like now. So this is new to your report. Well, it's a different version, but this is included. And then if you can go to the next slide. The next page, Maria.
What is MOE? You know,
Maintenance of effort.
maintenance of that.
Yeah, so this is it. And so there's, if, and Norm, I don't know, or Kevin or John even, if there's anything that you want to add here, but this goes into what you were talking about, what your expenditures were, what the revenues were, whether people were in compliance. So this presentation today was this is what the audit subcommittee is proposing. This group had asked for you to come back and present something to them so that they could see it and approve it, was my understanding. So.
Yes.
Right. All right, well, let's open it up to questions and comments.
Yeah, so
Rosemary.
I see the 13 jurisdictions. I don't see which represents 60%. I don't see 40%. Am I missing we missing something here? A slide, a chart that demonstrates the 40%?
Oh, you mean you want the total funds, you want also columns added for the 60% and the 40%?
Well,
The regional.
yeah,
That would be
Well,
the
I think
regional.
she's talking about
Is that a separate chart each?
for the
would be fine.
regional projects.
The regional projects.
I mean, you guys are doing so good. It's a good chart to put in there. And if you look at the chart page, there might be some room down below. You guys are doing really good. You're not telling them as much, which I'd like to suggest.
It would be easy enough to add the regional share to this table. The rest, so the other pages within the overall TAMSI report does talk a lot about the regional projects in Measure X. So it talks about the leveraging, it talks about other things, provides updates on specific projects within the regional share. And highlights a few local projects that TAMSI's also worked on that aren't Measure X related, but it would be easy enough to add
So what the feedback is at least one of our own group had a little difficulty putting the words in a chart. It'd be a visual way of help. That's all. It's a good story.
So the 22 million is the 60%, and then the 40% would be, the rest?
Yes.
Right,
Yeah,
it would,
yes.
I think it's somewhere around 39-40 million total
39.
then.
Yeah.
So total revenues, here's your 60, here's where 60% went, here's where 40% went.
Anyone in the committee have an objection to adding that column?
No.
All right, if we can fit it in, let's do it. Let's fit it in. Wedge it in there.
I have a comment. Could we go
Yes.
back to the previous chart for a moment, please?
Right.
First off, I want to say this is very good, headed in the right direction. These comments are for consideration. If you did not do an alphabetical listing, if you broke this chart into the peninsula and the valley, and then you put a percentage over on the right-hand column of how much their share commonly is. For example, the two highest sections, municipalities, are the county and Salinas. And between the two of them, that's about 68% of the 60%. And if we went and put these in those two groupings, managerially and a person looking from their region, it would jump out to them what percentage they're taking of the budget and how they're doing. It's an easier way of them grasping it. That's all I have on that chart. On the other chart,
Norm, we did discuss dividing it into regions. You want to talk about this? I could also.
Go ahead.
All right.
You're there.
We talked about regions and we looked over the original Measure X ordinance language and what the voters voted on. And we noted that there was no regional breakdown or distinctions. And we got concerned that by creating it into regions, we were artificially creating differences between this area and that area. Immediately you get the issue of, difference between the Salinas Valley and the Monterey Peninsula and who's
look at
getting
the
what.
let us divide. They
I
get all the
didn't
money.
want to, I don't think we wanted to start creating regional breakdowns that weren't authorized, salad curtain and all that and start creating problems. So we said, the fair way to do it is to put it in alphabetical order and leave it at that.
I would suggest you consider putting the percentage up there, what they typically get.
I have a question about that. Does that also correlate to the percentage of what they give? I mean, if they're the larger jurisdictions in the region, would they also contribute the amount that they're potentially getting?
Tax wise.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, they're main.
you can explain the formula, but there's a
There are
number of miles of
qualifications for
roads
that.
and population or this was a grand compromise between people on the TMC committee back in 2015, 2016. So that nobody would complain, I'm not getting enough or somebody else is getting too much. So they created this particular formula to determine who gets what.
I see. Thank you.
It is based on population and lane miles by jurisdiction. It's not based on the generation of sales tax by jurisdiction.
So I would suggest, Ed, if you want to add a percentage, it probably fits better on the other table where we have the numbers and people can
I
see.
think that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
I will say I have a problem with us separating out the numbers in a percentage. That isn't what this committee, and I was around in the beginning, was created for. So I do have a problem with it.
Without doing that, I can understand where you come from, but I'm looking at it from a transparency standpoint. It's hard for, even we've seen it here today, good suggestion, Victoria. It's hard sometimes for people to catch the message of it's how good it is. Truthfully, it's what I've been saying for years.
Yeah, but I feel that it's up to staff to write that in the rest of the report, in their message that of what the money is doing.
I don't disagree with that. There are a lot of people that are good at taking a verbal, and there's the other 50% that take it as a visual. And part of the job here is to do the transparency. We're not lying or anything, and I don't see, I'm not picking up on the negative there.
Paul?
I kind of understand what everybody is saying, but it seems to me that we run the risk of having it be just as negative as it perhaps can be positive. And I think that's something we want to avoid at all costs, especially since the numbers are there. If somebody is really interested, they can break them out themselves. It's not that we're not being transparent. We're just not spoon feeding it to them. If they're really interested, and I really question how many people want that particular number. And if they do, I understand it, but the numbers are there. They can pick them out and put them together. And it allows us to not perhaps build a potential for any negative feedback.
I understand the issue, Ed, because you represent North County and you don't have any incorporated cities. So it's, you got one number for Monterey County and, you don't know
No.
what's going where.
I'll tell you what, if I bring, say, Sarah Rubin in here and set her down, or if I sit down with her and hand her this document and ask her, what do you get out of that, Sarah? I'll bring you back the feedback.
You can, hopefully Sarah will see, first of all, that for the first year, we have everybody in compliance, which is really our main role.
I've been coming from this, great work, great from the day before. When I oppose this effort, I'm on your side. It's a communication issue. Being afraid of showing the different areas, maybe you're right. I think it just keeps coming out better and better all the time. That's why I brought that up for these two folks that,
Nice question.
Okay, we've got Victoria and then Janet.
I just kind of have a question. I'm not sure I'm understanding the impetus for this conversation, but we've already, it seems like in the conversation, moved past the idea of regions. So now what we're talking, in other words, no, that would be artificial. There's nothing about regions in the original measures. Now we're talking about whether we should divide, let's say the top one of the Carmel number 263 over 227 to show what percentage Carmel, for example, takes up of the entire budget. And of course, that's something I can almost do it in my head here, but the question I have is, when you put a percentage in as a column, you're saying that the allocation from one jurisdiction to the other is of interest because it has some bearing on the mission of this organization or this effort. And my question is, what bearing does it have? I'm open either way. If I understand, are we supposed to be making sure that a certain percentage goes to a certain jurisdiction? Because again, having been on the board of TAMC when this was passed, I just don't recall much about that. But on the other hand, if we think in other words, you put a column there, you're trying to make a point. The point is that past the region issue, that this jurisdiction gets this amount versus another jurisdiction. So tell me Ed, what you think is useful about that, doing that calculation, telling people that is a metric they should be watching.
from a managerial standpoint, if you look on that chart right there, you don't go away with that chart.
Oh, go back. I'm sorry. I had
That's
asked
all
her to move it.
Back.
The other one.
Which one?
Okay, so for example, Sand City takes up 1/1000th of the budget. Whereas there's a couple areas up there, Salinas and Monterey, take up a lot more of the budget.
But that's
I'm
true,
trying
but
to
what's
get-
the point?
I'm trying to get there.
Okay,
So that when you look at that, and you can see where who's spending the most amount of the budget and are they doing well? Because if Salinas and then North County, if they do well in what they're doing, that's 60% of your budget. And if they're not doing well, it's a problem for us, but they have been doing very well. And many places have been, not only are they spending the X dollars to fix roads, they're also spending their own money to spend it. And so that's why I come from looking at, we're gonna do an audit of how is the plan working? And if I can see who's the main players and who
that's
aren't.
by the way, that's a different math than what you're proposing.
Yes.
The math you're saying now is, we expected Carmel to be this busy and to
Yeah.
spend this amount on the formulas, but instead they were this busy. That's interesting. In other words,
Yeah.
how much are they taking advantage compared to what we expect their capacity is? But comparing one jurisdiction to the other, I don't know what that serves, comparing like, this is what Carmel, for example's max formula could yield them. And they're basically doing 75% of what they could be doing. That's something
But with
different.
their reserve, they're actually doing 90%.
Right. I think that's what you're saying, which is totally different than the first percentage discussion we were having.
Yeah.
And that might be worth discussing, I think.
Janet?
Our job is to determine whether or not the funding is consistent with the Measure X.
It's true.
This does that. And inherent within the findings is the fact that they are abiding by the initial allocation. And to go beyond that is not a function of this committee. Anyway, my 2 cents.
Amen.
I just have one suggestion, minor, and I want to thank the committee for working on this, but with the MOE, just explain, I had the same question, it's not written out. what that
Asterisk
is.
to explain what that is. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought that
It's
myself.
missing, yeah.
So question for the committee, can we go, so this is the chart, everyone's familiar with this chart. Can we scroll to the next chart? This is the ad. So by show of hands, does the committee feel like this is worthwhile and should be included?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Great.
I like this.
Okay.
Great chart.
I don't like the way it's presented, but you all heard that.
We're making changes each year. I think Janet makes a very good point. We have to be, I think some of this, Ed, that you're bringing up, this is actually a matter for the TMC board. And yes, this group is very accessible and open and willing to discuss this sort of things. But we are not the policymakers on this. And it's the policymakers, I think, who have to address some of the issues that are coming up. But we have taken your comments and other comments into account. We're moving forward on this. We've had people comment about this chart before, and another way, some people saying that there's a lack of equity in it. And we pointed out, actually, this is a matter that the TMC board has to decide, not the oversight committee.
We need to stay in our lane.
That's right.
Are we finished with this one?
It's hard to tell me.
Yes, and I don't, we don't have an action item on this. Is there anybody who just says, I don't like this, or are we fine to have this put into the report?
I'll make a motion that we concur with the committee with the change that was recommended.
Second,
Since we don't have an action item, I'm not sure we can have an actual vote on this.
Pleasure of the committee.
I think just by consensus, we like it.
Okay, so the change that was discussed was adding the Measure X regional to the total, so your revenues match the revenue for the whole year for all Measure X. Okay, so.
And to add the MOE.
Asterisk. Okay, just clarifying, that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
Okay,
And the asterisk.
yes,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
great, thank you.
Public comment. Oh, Janet, Paula, before we.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I noticed in the, I might have missed it, feedback on the proposed changes at the August meeting included, there were 4 points there. And the last point is tell the story about why jurisdictions are not spending all the Measure X funds they receive. Did I miss it? Is that in there somewhere that I just glossed over, or did we not address that?
I think one of the things we discussed is here is where we come up with the issue of the busyness that you were talking about. We don't want to make Carmel look like they're incompetent because they're not spending the money. And this is where the issue came in. We talked about this. If Carmel is saving money for a big, larger project over 3 years, they would have a year where they wouldn't be doing anything. So we have to be careful as we present this information to not make the public think Carmel is not spending its money. And we also have in this TMC report, the summaries of what jurisdictions are doing. I think the best thing for do is if somebody believes in Carmel is not spending its money properly, you need to go and talk to the Carmel City Council about it, not the Oversight Committee. So we did talk about this in detail, and positives and negatives, and we've decided we're gonna not include it.
Oh, okay, because I noticed, you can look at the figures there and see that they're not spending it all.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if potentially send us up for a question as to why they're not, and we didn't address it. I mean, but if you've already discussed it, because I wasn't here.
There is one city here where I'm constantly being told they're not spending their money. And I'd rather have that city council and the city's public works staff there deal with that than us.
Right, because our job is to be transparent with the funds that Measure X generates,
Right.
not to say why they aren't.
Objective, not subject. Correct.
Yeah.
And it's got a note up there that says funds reserved for future project. And that answers that question, because when it wasn't there, when it left the public, some skeptics
No.
would look up there and go, well, god dang, boy, you're missing like 10,000 or $10 million. And this answers the question.
Right.
They're-
Well, yeah, I think we're doing our job here. If
Right.
somebody looks at this and says, why is a certain local government have so much reserve balances? And, you know, if they call you, Todd, or anybody else, send them off to that particular municipality.
Right.
Tom?
I'd like to congratulate Kevin, Norm, and the committee for the good job.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
Successful organization. Let me put this out to public comment. Does anybody from the public have anything to say about this report? No, they're all looking forward to it.
Nay.
Thank you.
Announcements and or comments. This is your chance to talk about the Measure X committee. Is there anything you'd really like to have discussed at our next quarterly meeting?
Go ahead. Darren?
Darren, do you? No?
What pops to my mind, being in North County, is the issue in Moss Landing and the highway road in that area, and Dolan Road being, it's getting brutally, there's many heavy trucks that were working on the construction initially. Now there's gonna be more heavy trucks taking stuff out, and they're gonna maybe rebuild that place. That roadway, again, we may have to take that up with our own people about that, but, and I think we will mention to.
That's a supervisor church
Right.
issue. Yes.
I plan on, let me rephrase. We're gonna go talk to church about that issue because of the heavy wear and tear that was already there and is now gonna be duplicated. We'll talk to them about maybe changing their priorities.
Yeah, I think a lot of people understand the problems that are going on with that intersection. It's pretty prominent.
Well, and maybe to that effect, we have Randy Ishii come and give a report on what he is working on at this point. He made a presentation to my board back in January, and it's well put together. He can really give us an alignment of where he's spending his money and whether or not Dolan now has become part of that priority list.
Or has it been changed because of?
Yes, correct.
We've had him speak, I think, a couple of years ago and then a couple of years before that. So we're probably due for another, considering how much money they spend, another report from him.
Yeah, we can invite him for an update.
So invite the county representative to speak next meeting.
Is there anything going on 68 we need to know about?
Well, if we're doing general updates, we were gonna do a presentation at our next Measure X Citizen Oversight Committee. In that time as well with the release of the final EIR for the project. And also we wanted to do an update on the adaptive signal control discussion.
What was the last statement?
The adaptive signal control,
Okay.
which is an interim project that's been proposed. So at the April X-Talk committee, we were gonna do a full presentation on those two things.
That's Highway 68, so okay.
That's the $500,000 for the AI signaling.
Correct.
That's one. Okay.
Right, in fact, you might want to mention here the award winner for TMC. That was interesting to see that.
Well, we had a series, we had the Excellence Awards, which is something that TAMC does every year in January. And it, with every year in about October, November, we ask for nominations for folks for individuals or projects or programs to get nominated for awards. And Dwight Stump was nominated for his advocacy towards the adaptive signal control. And as we thought about it, we felt that he has been very active to do that. And also his approach, we think, was appropriate, where he was polite, he was engaged, It's the kind of thing that we wanted to show our appreciation for, so we thought the nomination was appropriate. That's how it ended up and that he got included.
Yes. Well, that shows you an example of this, and there has been some change from the beginning, I think, and he has played a role in saying, hey, there are multiple options on this, so.
What those awards are for the public, they're not for TAMC staff, even though Doug Bilsey over there spent hundreds probably of hours talking about that and working through it and making sure that it has a chance for success. So Doug does, good job, Doug, from staff. He's been the lead on all of our regional highway projects, and Highway 68 has been a lot of work this past year. So while it's really good to give Dwight acknowledgement from his public perspective, there's been a lot of TAMC staff work on the corridor this last year. So we can talk about that at the next sector.
Thank you.
Keith?
Was the Carmel Valley Road resurfacing a Measure X project?
I don't know specifically. We'd have to look at the annual report from the county to see if they funded part of it with that.
I thought I saw a sign out there.
I know with the roundabout at Laurellis Grade and Carmel Valley Road, which the bids are supposed to be in beginning of next month. I don't know if anyone in the room's bidding. But the county has put some of their Measure X towards that project just to make sure it's fully funded. But we'll see as that progresses what the actual mix is for funding.
All right, thank you.
Any other announcements or comments? We are adjourned. 3:00.
What do you mean I don't stand in my lane?